Today, we're diving into a really wild idea, a cosmic theory that offers a totally new way of looking at why our world feels so chaotic right now. And, believe it or not, why we're all starting to live so much longer.
I mean, think about it. It's a fact of modern life, right? Our lifespans have shot up. We usually chalk it up to better medicine, healthier food, new technology. But what if the real reason is much, much bigger than that?
Well, the theory we're digging into today suggests exactly that. It says we're not just in a new century, we're in an entirely new era for the human race, one that's governed by a completely new set of rules. So let's break down what that actually means.
All right, so to really get this theory, you first have to see all of human history as being split into two totally distinct periods. There's the past, and then there's the present, an era we are just now stepping into.
And this table really lays it all out. What this theory calls the past era was this kind of mechanical existence. Humanity's main job was pretty simple, just build the foundations of society. For that kind of work, a lifespan of 50, maybe 60 years was plenty. And of course, the theory calls great nature was in charge. But now, we're in the present era. Our job isn't to build anymore, it's to use everything we've built. And that's a way more complicated job, so it requires more time, 80+ years. And here's the kicker. Humanity is now in the driver's seat.
Okay, so what's driving this huge shift? The source material points to one central rule, something it calls the 70-30 principle.
And this is the absolute heart of the whole idea. Imagine all the work of creating, of building the physical world in our societies. That whole thing accounts for 70% of humanity's grand project. The source argues that part of the job is officially done. We've now entered the final 30%, where our only task is to figure out how to operate it all wisely and correctly.
This visual really helps, right? You can see we've crossed this huge threshold. We've moved from that massive, completed 70% slice into this critical, final 30% slice. We're basically transitioning from being laborers to being the managers of planet Earth.
But, and this is a big but, the theory says this switchover isn't some walk in the park. This 70% mark is a moment of peak crisis. All the unresolved issues, all the conflicts and contradictions that got built up during that creating phase, they all boil over at once. It's a time that feels totally chaotic, maybe even hopeless, right before the new way of living can truly start. So how do different places around the globe fit into all this? Well, the source uses this really cool metaphor to explain it, the tree of humanity. The big idea here is that all of us, the entire human species across the whole planet, we're all functioning like one giant ancient tree, and each part of that tree has a very specific job to do, but at a very specific time. So, according to this way of thinking, the West has been acting as the branches of the tree. They were the most visible part, always reaching outwards, and they were the first ones to do their work, back in that creating era. And then you have the great continental powers, like China, for example. They're described as the trunk. Their whole job was to provide the core strength, the stability, supporting the entire structure, while the branches were busy doing their thing. And finally, there are the roots. And the source points specifically to Korea for this role. The roots were hidden, underground, quietly soaking up energy and nutrients. But their main work, it hadn't even started yet. Okay, so here's why all that matters. Now that we've crossed that 70% threshold, the time of the branches and the trunk is over. Their work is done. This theory says that now is the moment for the roots to finally activate and start doing their fundamental work, which is to shape this whole new era of using everything that's been built.
All right, now this is where the theory gets really wild. The very nature of power itself has changed. It's not about physical force anymore. It's about the power of our minds.
The source describes two of these great shifts. Way back, when humanity was about 30% of the way through its creating phase, the planet itself went through these massive physical changes, geological upheaval, land rising out of the sea to form huge mountain ranges. But the shift happening now, at this 70% mark, whoa, it's something else entirely. Yeah, we're not talking about continents shifting around anymore. The source claims that the change we are causing right now is so deep, so profound, it is actually moving the axis of the Earth itself. And you might be asking, how in the world could that happen? Well, the theory proposes this pretty incredible chain reaction. It all starts with us, with our collective thoughts and our words.
This creates a powerful energy that actually changes the energy field of the whole planet. That shift is what causes the Earth's axis to move. And a shift in our planet's axis, well, that affects the entire solar system.
And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical concept. The theory connects this power to real-world events. It argues that widespread negative thoughts, all the complaining and resentment out there, that stuff can literally fuel conflict and even start wars. Social discontent creates real instability. Our collective consciousness, according to this, is now directly sculpting our physical reality.
So what does all this mean for us? It basically means our entire job description as a species has changed. And with that comes this massive, profound, new responsibility.
And this is where it all comes back to the beginning. The reason we're living longer? Well, this theory says it's because we have to. Our new job is to be the operators, the managers of this world we've built. And that takes wisdom, it takes learning, it takes maturity, all things that require time. So the cosmos or nature is giving us that extra time to get the job right.
I mean, just think about that role reversal. It's huge. For thousands of years, humanity was basically a passenger, just being led and shaped by the forces of great nature. In this new 30% era, we've been handed the controls. We're not just along for the ride anymore. We're the pilots.
Which leaves all of us with one pretty heavy final thought. If this theory is onto something, if our thoughts, our words, and our collective energy are now the main force shaping our world, from politics all the way out to the solar system, then the future is truly, and maybe a little frighteningly, up to us. What happens next depends entirely on what we decide to think.